In this video, we're going to take a look at mobile reports in Power BI. They're very cool and very powerful, but I don't get the feeling that they get the love that they deserve. So let's build one on top of Power PPM. And don't you just love this winter view here? For this video, I'm using a trimmed down version from the Power PPM standard reports. Now it has great reports such as data quality tracker, in which you have a history of how your PPM solution is doing. Are there schedules added, budget added, KPIs, how are we doing with risks? And we have things like a resource manager's overview because we have a link to Team Planner. Now, if you're not familiar with those tools, don't worry. We're not going to look at them in detail today. What I am going to show you is that we have mobile report options. And if you're not familiar with that, it shows up really nicely here in the bottom left, where you have your desktop layout view and you have something called a mobile layout view. If I click on the button to see the mobile view, what I see is a nice mobile template, and I have these grid views, and I have nothing else. Now that nothing else is actually nothing on the page. So that means that I actually need something on the page before I can create a mobile view. So that is different from a normal desktop view of a report where you can immediately interact with that page. For a mobile layout, you will need to have visuals on your page already. So let's have a look at mobile page 2, where I already created a couple of visuals. So on the right side, we have two tables which have filters on them for the next 28 days or the next 2 months. Now on mobile views, you want to be very precise with what you show. It needs to be immediately clear what we're seeing here. So for the top one, it's closing initiatives for the next 2 months. What I needed to do there is I needed to grab the last scheduled date for that project. So let's see. What I needed to do for the top table is I needed to create a closing date. And that closing date is a measure. And I had my lovely Dave DAX help me out with the exact way of how to write that. Here it is. Last date is the calculated date of the max from tasks end date, and all except initiative and initiative name. So this takes the last day of that schedule. I also decrease the size of the names of our columns because that link is actually called initiative app URL. So that's a lot longer than link, which we have here. There's also an option to decrease the size of a URL, and that is the URL icon here. So that makes this table very small, very compact, and it tells you exactly what's happening. So the next projects that are going to close are Chris and TIG initiative. Same goes for the upcoming milestones. I'm looking at the next 28 days, and how do I do that? I have a filter on this visual at the end date, and it is a relative date. So it always will look at the next 28 days, including today. Then I have overbooked resources for the next 3 weeks. Again, this is a filter on relative dates. And what I did here is I added a reference line allowing for guideline where we have an issue for the overbooked resources. Now we get this information from Team Planner. So how do we create that reference line? I go into the visual, I navigate to the reference line. Max allowed is what I called it, and it's a constant line on 24. I can also change that to 32, and I had a color that springs out because once again, in a mobile view, you want to be very clear right from the start. In the first few seconds, you need to know what's on the page and how to work with that. Free capacity, once again, something that is filtered on the next few days, and I added a conditional formatting of the grid and what I did here is I added in the cards I added a border and it had a color. So if that goes above the 1000 or 10,000 even, it turns red. So that if you're looking at a mobile phone and you're looking at this report, it's immediately clear that that is an issue. Same goes for the initiatives not updated in the last 2 months. What I did here, I took the gouge and I created a measure to look at half of all the projects that we have in the system. So let me show you that measure that I have. So here is the max old values. And here's the old updates and the number of initiatives. Number of initiatives is a simple distinct count. Might want to change this to distinct active count. Max old values is 50% of all the initiatives that we're doing, and the old updates is where an initiative is more than 56 days ago. More than 56 days ago is again a measure. Let me find it for you. Here is that measure. So modified on is smaller than today minus 56. I can increase or decrease that, and it is a yes/no value. So this is a Boolean that tells me, is this initiative older, or has this initiative not been updated for the last 56 days, or is it updated on time? Now, I'm completely overstating that limitation, and that's why this is turned red. What you see in the red KPI initiatives, it's green actually. And the way I do that is I navigate to my format, and in the format I have my colors, and in the color I can set a filter color. So it is looking at conditional format old values. That is interesting. That is another measure that I created. So let's find that conditional format old values. We also have the conditional format for the KPI status. So the old value here is it's using a switch function where if it's true, then it is close to the max red, then it's green, or it's smaller than the green. It is smaller than the max red values, then it's green. If it's close to that, then it turns into amber, and if it's fully over, in this case, it turns up red. Now let's have a look at the KPI status. It's very similar. It also has number of max red values and red values. Now let's have a look at that red KPI initiative. It also has a measure for the max allowed red KPI initiative. So this is the KPI that shows you that a project has an overall KPI that is red. This one is set to 25% of all the projects that we have, and we only have 65 projects that are over that have a red KPI. So now that you know what kind of data we have in our mobile report page, let's make it a mobile report page. Navigating to the mobile layout view. The difference between what we saw on mobile 1 and mobile 2 is now I have these page visuals. And I also had that image, which I can add here. Be a nice little logo. I have the option to add a text stating that this is a mobile report. And I can start dragging and dropping these values. And I really like the ease of how we're doing this. Let's just add all of them and talk through it. So here we have the KPI, free capacity, that has a very big title. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to not show a title, but instead I want to have that inside my callout values. And looking down below, it has a label. And I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that we can have that in here. Now what you might notice is that there is this little icon popping up. This is telling us that the changes that we're making to this report visual is only on the mobile. Now if you want to revert back to the original, there's this little box here, or this little button here that says clear mobile changes, and then you revert it back to the original. So we can change a couple of more things here. So let's have that overbooked resources down below, and let's increase the size of our KPI red values. And now here you just find out what works best for you in your visuals. Here we can also remove that subtitle, and we can decrease the size of our titles so that we can have a little bit more real estate. We're not using any titles here, so this can be a little bit smaller. We can do the same for this section here, so that looks good. Let's have that overcapacity value here. No, that's not allowed. Well, maybe not now, but I can decrease the size again. Decreasing the size of the values here, and maybe even decrease the size of that title. And I can even have that just showing up here. Then we have upcoming milestones. No, I'm going to add this here, and I have my two columns that are going to go down below because I don't want to have that as the first thing that I'm looking at. I'm looking at a mobile view once again, right? The mobile views need to be very clear right from the start, and you don't want to do that much scrolling if you don't need to. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And here I see that it has initiative name. I do want to change that, and I do need to change that on the original desktop layout. So I have initiative name here, and I'm going to change that. Here it is, name. Back to the mobile view, and that already looks nice. I still have an empty spot here, and let's add a card with the number of, going back, with the number of risks that I have. So number of risks, let's add that here, and let's do nothing with that apart from just having that as a card. And that looks really nice, right? So we have a mobile report with a nice logo, with the two most important things here on top, and you can use this on a mobile phone and scroll down and see your upcoming milestones. Maybe you want to give these tables a little bit more room, and making sure that you see everything on that table in one go. I also decreased the size of the date fields to represent only a month and a date instead of also the year, because that might not be interesting for the near future, the exact goal of a mobile view, right? So that looks nice on a mobile phone, and if I navigate back to my desktop, it is a complete mess. So what you want to do, and I'll navigate to mobile 3, is you want to have a nice look and feel for your mobile report, even if people are looking at it through the desktop. I did add this little text here. This report looks best on a mobile phone, just to make sure that everyone knows this is actually supposed to be something that you look at on your mobile phone instead of on the desktop. So let's have a look at that last version of the mobile layout here. it has both due risks this month and total issues. So let's navigate a little bit down, see how we did this. And here we have a go to Power PPM with a nice little button here of a URL. So that is how you create a mobile report using your Power PPM data, or basically any project or portfolio management system will have similar values that you can pull into a mobile report. And that's it for the first video of 2024. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.